Welcome back to the Event Squadcast. This is episode 1 of our Enrichment Deep Dive. I'm your host, Brad Froese, and today we're tackling a game changer in the events industry, data enrichment. Now, I know what you're thinking. Data enrichment sounds like a snooze fest, right? But trust me, this stuff is reshaping how events are done from start to finish. We're talking about a smarter, more efficient way to plan, execute, and follow up on events. And who doesn't want that? So whether you're in the event game, or just curious about how the magic happens, we've got some serious insights coming your way today. So stick around. It's not your average data talk, folks. Let's get into it. Now, hold on to your helmets, because we've got a tech mastermind in the house today. This guy is not just a genius in the world of AI and machine learning. No, he's also revolutionizing agriculture while riding motorcycles and piloting planes like it's no big deal. Let me introduce you to Nassir Jamal, the man who's blending artificial intelligence with hydroponic farming to feed the world, all while making sure his plants get the best nutrition, and maybe taking a quick spin on his bike or flying a plane while the crops grow themselves. Yeah, you heard it right. It's like he's living in the future and he's flying us all there with him. As Captello CTO Nassir is driving innovations that make our platform smarter than ever, and while keeping the tech secure and running smoother than a freshly paved runway. But today he's here to drop some serious knowledge on how he's taking data enrichment to the skies. So buckle up, because he's about to take us on a ride. Nassir, how are you doing today?
I am wonderful, man, and thank you very much for that amazing and too kind of an intro here in that case.
Absolutely. Well, listen, Nassir, it's clear that you are an innovator across multiple industries, and you work with AI, and you're making, AI and data waves everywhere. But let's take a look at what brought you here today, the data enrichment in the events industry. For those of us who may not be fully immersed in the world of data, it can sound a bit techy, but as you've experienced, it's one of the key ingredients in transforming how events are executed, making them smarter and more efficient. So let's kick things off with a big picture question, Nassir. What exactly does data enrichment mean when we're talking about the events industry?
Yeah. Thank you for that question. I think it's important to level set as much as possible, right? So for us, and how we look at it, is data enrichment really is the process of taking the limited information that you capture at an event, a badge scan, a business card, a quick conversation, and layering it on everything else, right? To kind of actually do something with that information. It could be job title, company size, phone number, social profiles, and whether they're already in your CRM, right? That's a huge piece. What stage is the deal in, etc. So if you think about what a badge scan actually does in today's world, right? At best, you get a name, company, email in some cases. So sometimes the QR code just maps to strictly the registration record. That's not really intelligence, right? That's just very much a starting point. So enrichment turns that starting point into a complete prospect profile that sales can act on immediately. So in the event context specifically, enrichment isn't just about filling in blank fields, right? It's about capturing context of a human interaction. What was discussed, what they're interested in, what is their buying journey look like, and connecting that to every other data point you have about that person across your CRM, marketing automations, and maybe additional social channels. So really it's enrichment, I guess, is the difference between handing sales a list of names or handling them a list of prioritized set of opportunities with truly full context, right? One will get ignored and the other one actually closes deals.
Okay, so let's take a step back for a second here and just look at the norm, not the best practice. How are your typical companies, and maybe it's an enterprise company, doing data enrichment today?
Yeah, it really ranges wildly, right? On one end, you have companies that are still manually Googling people after a show, for example, typing things into spreadsheets. On the other side, you have organizations using fully AI-powered scanning that maybe identifies a contact from the badge information. At Captello, right, our IntelliScan works like this. You scan a badge, even one without a QR code. It can be just like a photo, right? And we cascade that through our data sources, right, from the Captello Enrichment Network. It validates emails, it can append company logos, it maps to your CRM and marketing automation systems, all in real time, right? That's enrichment in action. So the leading edge of where enrichment is today also includes the conversation intelligence, right? Recording and transcribing booth and meeting conversations, extracting those key points, next steps, auto-categorizing the stage. It also includes pulling in opportunity data from Salesforce or HubSpot so you know where the deal stands as you shake somebody's hand. But honestly, most of the industry is still somewhere in the middle. They might use one enrichment tool, but it's not connected to CRM, or they enrich after the event, right, instead of during, which means that they lose days, and sometimes we hear weeks of follow-up time. So we work every day to successfully solve this for our customers by working with them shoulder to shoulder and assisting them in their data journey and mapping it accordingly.
All right. Well, I want to come back to where you're going with this. What's the latest and the greatest, and what's the best practice? But can we step back a little bit and look historically at how companies have handled data enrichment at their events, and what kind of gaps are being created, and how does this affect their ability to report event success or event or ROI, or even hand off
Yeah.
great leads to their sales department?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's been an interesting journey for sure, right? So for decades, the workflow kind of looked like this. You rent a lead scanner from the show organizer or a different tool at every single event. You scan a badge, you get a CSV file, maybe emailed to you, you download it from a portal. Sometimes 3-5 days after a show, you may not have the full context of the information that you really care about. You have an intern or a junior marketer maybe manually clean this up in Excel, push it through internal tools and add more manual verification on top of it, send it to maybe different departments. You upload it to your CRM or a different system first, which looks at it, routes it, and then finally gets it to the right place. So then sales finally sees it, maybe 2 weeks later. You may have emails bouncing at that point, right? None of the records have been truly properly enriched. And that's just the digital path, right? There's still plenty of companies still collecting business cards, right? In fish bowls, we still see it. My last event, I probably collected 50 cards. It still is a thing. So they rubber band them together, and hand them to our receptionist or a team member to type them into the system one by one, like it's being manually filled in. So the real cost isn't just time, it's the conversations lost in all of this, right? A rep has a great talk track at the booth. They scribble some notes on the back of a card. By the time the data reaches the CRM, that whole context is gone. Nobody remembers what was discussed. The follow-up is generic, and the prospect pretty much moves on. So, and every event is its own island. That's how it's being treated today, right? Different scanners for him, different scanners for Dreamforce, different data formats, no continuity between these events, right? No way to see the same person showed up at 3 of our events and they're clearly getting warmer. So that's a lot of lost insights and capabilities, and the market is very much transitioning away from that.
Yeah, it really sounds like a mousetrap, and a lot of people are kind of living in this event reporting hell, where there, again, are so many manual processes, just time draws, time sucks, getting in. Unfortunately, the receptionist or the marketing support person is filtering this data, trying to clean it up, and as humans, we make mistakes. So it does add a lot of, I think, bad data into the process. So yeah, we're starting to see that the problem, and you mentioned something else too that's super important, and that they're having conversations on the show floor, and the salespeople are warming up relationships. And when they walk off the sales floor, what's happening to that incredible conversation? And if that salesperson has another 40 conversations that are pretty good, how are they remembering who they had what conversation with?
Yeah, there's definitely some clear gaps today, right, that exist in this standard format that a lot of folks are used to. That really the biggest gap is time, which we just discussed, right? It can take weeks to get the leads into the systems. If that's the case, you've already lost. Research consistently shows that the response time is the single biggest predictor of the conversion. So if your competitor follows up same day and you follow up 2 weeks later, you're absolutely not competing. But that's the first issue, right, is the follow-up process. The second one is the data completeness. The data is always partial. You'd get a name and an email, but maybe no phone, no title, no company size, right? Sales would look at this list and basically like, I can't work this, right? It still has to be enriched. There's no context. There's no history. So that's why 80% of the leads never get followed up. It's not laziness, right? It's just the data itself is not actionable, or the time it takes to make it actionable is not worth it, especially when they're chasing other deals or other opportunities. So you end up in a situation where there's zero conversation context. The most valuable thing that is happening at the event is that human interaction. When someone said that they, what they need, what problems that they are facing, what solutions they're evaluating, none of that was captured in a structured way. It lived in someone's head on a napkin. So how can your cold email that went out late stand out in the sea of AI generated messages that your customers are getting every single day? So you have this situation where now this data is trapped. It didn't flow into the CRM. It didn't connect to marketing automation systems. There was no way to measure ROI because you can't trace the deal back properly. So events were pretty much a black box. They knew it cost a lot, but couldn't prove what was returned. So we want to try to help with that, right? There's a continuity bridge that very much needs to be built and maintained. Every event that folks are attending is almost starting from zero. No institutional memory, no that cumulative intelligence about the accounts and their status, especially across events, right? So that's a very much a critical piece that has to be addressed.
Okay, well, let's take a look at, and I want to talk about conversation intelligence here soon.
Sure.
But as a company, how are we addressing it? But right now, let's take a look at how are we addressing these issues as an industry? What do you see going on out there, and does it feel like the right paths are being taken?
Yeah, so this is an important topic, and this is very much important for exhibitors and organizers alike, right? The macro context that kind of makes this urgent is that third-party cookies are effectively dead in a lot of ways, right? Many of the browsers have blocked them years ago. Chrome is phasing them out. So that digital breadcrumb marketers used to track people across the web very much disappearing. AI adds complexity into that. So now events are one of the richest sources of that condensed first-party data. The industry is waking up to this. The biggest untapped source has always been these conversations, right? What people actually say at your booth and meetings. That's infinitely more valuable than what's on their badge. So now with AI transcription summaries, we can capture that at scale. That's brand new. 2 years ago, that just wasn't practical. The industry is also starting to pull in intent data. When someone searched before attending, what sessions, right, they went to, what content they downloaded. So when you combine all of that with that in-person interaction, you get to form that 360-degree view of the buying intent that you simply just can't get from digital marketing alone. The other big shift too is coming from the customer's own, CRM and pulling data from there. The marketing automations, right, being those points of captures and assisting that with the data flow, especially during the point of capture. So if someone scans a badge and the system immediately tells the rep, this is an existing customer. They have an open opportunity worth 200K in stage 3. They attended your webinar last month. That changes the conversation entirely. So the industry response, right, is that we're seeing this convergence. The event tech platforms, the data providers, the CRMs, AI are all starting to connect. 72% of planners right now say that AI is a valuable or essential item to include. 91% are using it in some form. So the question isn't whether the shift is happening, it's really who's leading it.
Right, and we see AI, people kind of adapting to what it is and how to use it and trying, they talk about the fear of being replaced by it, but really what we're learning is that AI is more like a rocket that needs to be pointed in the right direction and guided. It's a complicated solution or tool, and not a replacement, but it's to augment and support us in our jobs. But so we know there are some major gaps. You've talked about how the industry is handling these things as a whole, but what about Captello as a company? And you talk about conversations in in-person meetings as if they were so important. And you're right. When we start to create a picture of an event, and we know what our digital touch points are, they're, our pre-event marketing, our post-event marketing, our emails, you can see what people are doing on our websites, and that all gives us some insights, but it's nothing like what we get from our conversations. So talk about conversational intelligence or conversation intelligence for a minute, and what we're doing there as a company.
Yeah, absolutely. So really, we're kind of addressing some of the items I mentioned in a few different ways, right? And I think it's always important that we reduce complexity as much possible, especially for the event and the sales staff. That is critical, that we're making this process as simple as and intuitive as possible. And anything we can automate for them, I think that is something we can absolutely assist with, and that is our goal. So we really built IntelliScan to be truly universal, right? You scan a badge, a business card, in any language, LinkedIn QR codes, digital business cards, a piece of paper, or even like a name on top of a resume, right? The format for us doesn't matter. We extract the data, we run it through a cascade of enrichment providers as part of our Captello network. We validate it and we deliver that complete profile. So our enrichment pipeline isn't just a single data source, it's an intelligent set of capabilities really tuned to leverage the power of that data network, because there's always data duplications and things like that we have to account for. So if one source doesn't have all that, the next one does, and the user gets the best composite result of all of that. So what we're doing now, or pushing the envelope a little bit more, is now incorporating that into the customer's own CRM and marketing automation solutions as enrichment data sources. You scan a badge, we look them up in Salesforce, HubSpot, Marketo, Eloqua, sometimes multiple at the same time. We pull in opportunity data, engagement history, pipeline status. That really turns that badge scan into a full briefing, essentially. On top of that enrichment side, we're really building this conversation intelligence piece, transcription, summarization, talking point generation, competitive intel, etc. The vision is that when you meet someone at an event, right, you know everything about the opportunity during and after the conversation. And all that flows straight into your CRMs, no manual data entry, no CSVs to download, none of that. We're also really, because of how the industry works, there's a lot of verticals, and some of them are specialized. And each vertical may have a completely different set of requirements. So we're really building that industry-specific enrichment modules, right? Healthcares may need MPI validations and lookup. Financial services may need some additional SEC-based verifications. Real estate may need MLS data, things like that. So one size in enrichment doesn't work for all customers, especially as you operate across various regulated industries. So we really are trying to bring so much of this automation and capability so people don't need the data scientists on their side to be able to connect all those components, just a simple, easy button to kind of enable that.
Okay, so you really are taking us somewhere where we haven't been before, I think, as an industry. You're talking about things that people think are fictional, honestly. Like, let's simplify it real quick here. As looking at the Captello app, you download it, you get it on your phone, and you're saying that it can do all this for them. And explain the process when you're on the show floor and you're using Captello for the first time and all these enrichment things are happening. What does that look like for a user in a UI perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you first show up, right, and how the process looks like is we just, number one, we can start at the form side of it, is you have full and complete control over what questions to ask, what content needs to be in there, etc. So you pre-design this in a layout that is correct and appropriate for your environment, your team, or the event specifically. And then past that, the app just allows an intuitive way for the folks to scan those badges and have those powerful conversations. So as soon as somebody walks up to your booth, it's just a matter of scanning their badge, If you have the dev integration, right, with the system, you can pull that registration information. We'll act on that. If you don't, we will enrich that information accordingly based on what's there. If you have CRM integration and you set up that waterfall, so maybe your Salesforce is a source of truth first, and the second one may actually be HubSpot or something like that. What the system will do is we'll ping Salesforce first. It'll follow on to HubSpot. It'll pull in all the relevant information that's there, and then kind of create a consolidated set of talking points, information, and try to populate as much of that for you as possible. Now, that's phase one, is being able to bring all that together. What the end user sees is they're simply pointing their phone at a badge, and all this starts happening. We really want to push this even further, and there's a lot of plans to pretty much automatically fill the form just based on context of what was said, and that's in the works already.
So you're saying that someone can go to any event or even in an airport, scan pretty much anything, a napkin or a business card or a V card, whatever, and they'll end up getting enriched data from not only their Captello instance of all the stuff they pulled in during previous lead capture sessions, but also from their own CRM. And what about third-party data?
Yeah, absolutely. So same thing. Our Captello enrichment network, it consists of a large amount of third-party providers. So we obviously work with ones that fully respect GDPR and a lot of the established privacy rules and regulations that exist. It's very critical that customers understand that we only partner with the most ethical providers on that front, and that is absolutely key. So once we connect the data and we query all the third-party information and enrich it for you in a relevant way, sometimes you'll get duplication of data, inconsistent data, et cetera, depending on the source. One of them may have one piece, the other one may have a second piece of information. So what we really work on and try to enable on our side is to make sure that there's intelligence behind the decisions of what's actually being presented to you. And we continuously work to pretty much iterate that. So, events really are the richest source of that consented, high intent, first party data, essentially. So we want to make sure all that has all the right context and relevant information enriched according to your needs and requirements.
So while I'm there just simply scanning a lead and having a conversation, you're saying that in real time, Captello is doing all these things for me in the background, so I don't have to think about it. And what, let's see, I have to reshape this question. What happens on the back end? Like when I get back to the office and I need to report the value of everything I got from the event. Tell me on the reporting side, what do we do for the?
Yeah. So reporting to me is almost as critical, right? You always have, two sides to a problem in a lot of ways. First one is if you have all the powerful data that you could possibly need, that's great. You don't have a data collection problem. But a lot of folks are not missing the data. They're missing very much the reporting and the analytics element of it. So for that, Captello is our platform from an analytics perspective is truly next generation and powerful and connected to all elements when it comes to the data capture side. So with that, and what I mean by that is if you have activations or gamifications within our system, if you have a meeting management platform from our platform, if you get your reg data information from a third party and sync it into our systems, if you have your CRM embedded and integrated into our platform, what you're able to do is report holistically across all these different data sources and provide a consolidated, powerful set of details and information. The reports can be extremely granular. You can apply predictive analytics to the data as well, or you can do a lot of correlations all the way across, the various events that you've done. You can go from detailed reports to powerful dashboards that are interactive and you can click on those. Again, we're trying to remove the requirement for folks to have data science. We're leveraging our deep expertise in the events industry, in the lead capture space, in the enterprise sales world, and trying to combine that to, if it works for us and automates our processes, then we know it's going to work for a lot of our customers, especially when we consider their great feedback.
Okay. And so what you're defining really is it's not just a lead capture platform or solution anymore. We're not just talking about, hey, we can snap a badge or a picture of a card. We're really talking about a holistic solution that now creates new data points from conversations we're having. Now we have the full full picture from pre to post event marketing, all those digital touch points that we've previously relied upon that are, as you mentioned earlier, shifting in their reliance and adding in data points and the gamification interaction with the brand, meetings that are being scheduled, conversations that are being had, and being able to report totally on that whole entire event picture. Now that's starting to get exciting. So Nassir, as we kind of tie a bow around this conversation, like wrap it up, what is the next thing for the world of data enrichment when it comes to the event industry?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I would say that honestly, the next wave is predictive. It's not just telling you who someone is; it's about telling you who you should talk to next. It's really AI that analyzes the booth traffic, your pipelines, the CRM data in real time, and basically can say, "Hey, your highest value prospect just walked by." Right? Here's a background. Here's a real deal history. Here's the conversation starters that would make sense here. So what we're starting to see is this emergence of what the industry calls the agentic AI, which is, systems that don't just analyze, they act. They score a lead, route it to the right rep, maybe trigger a personalized follow-up sequence. They might help you book a meeting, generate a briefing document, all without human intervention. That's really where 2026 and 2027 are heading. It's a huge shift in how marketing and the event space and information is gathered and collated. So the mind shift is that events aren't a one-off moments anymore, right? They are data engines. Every interaction feeds a growing intelligence layer that makes the next interaction even smarter. The companies that treat their event data as a compounding asset, not a disposable list, right? Those are the companies that are going to win. So with cookies dying, with privacy regulations expanding, the companies that built these ethical, consent-based first-party kind of data collection systems will have enormous competitive advantages. Events are uniquely positioned here because the data exchange is that consensual and direct. The future belongs to companies that pretty much respect that. So we're not waiting for the future here at Captello. We're actively building it. Universal capture, AI enrichment, conversation intelligence for both booth and meetings, real-time CRM integrations, custom AI agents so folks can simply tune these AI responses to their own product use cases, the way they pronounce things, spell things, etc. All that, including like revenue attribution, will give you that complete end-to-end powerful, rich reporting. That's a stack that turns really the trade show booth into a revenue engine, right? And I think we're just getting started here.
Amazing. I'm loving it. The future is looking bright. So any other final comments from you on the topic before we close it out?
Let's see here. I guess a practical takeaway for the folks listening would be, audit your lead processing timeline. I would encourage everybody to take a look at that. How many days from the badge scan to sales follow-up? Be honest with yourself, track the whole process through and try to put that through. If it's more than 24 hours, you're losing, right? So then ask, right, what percentage of your captured leads have complete information? If it's, under 50%, under 80%, right, you have an enrichment problem. Those two numbers will tell you exactly how much revenue is actually falling through the cracks and maybe start giving you an indication of how to work on it. The next thing I'll say is don't just sign up for AI tools and all that just because the people say it's AI, it's going to do all those wonderful things for you. A lot of times adding an automation system into a broken process is one more cog in a broken machine. So it's very important that you take a step back, look at your process end to end, and try to see where these components can fit in strategically and surgically so you can have the maximum impact. Don't try to kind of, eat the whale here.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Nassir, for sharing your experience, your expertise, for giving us a glimpse into what's on the horizon. We do have a part 2 coming up, so stay tuned for that. Nassir, your insights were truly invaluable today for everybody listening. If you're as intrigued as I am about how data enrichment is changing the game, make sure you stay connected with us. To learn more about Captello and the work Nassir and the team are doing, be sure to check out our website and follow us on social media for the latest updates. And as always, if you found today's conversation helpful, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. We'll be back soon with more insights to help you elevate your events. Thanks for tuning into Event Squadcast. See you next time.